What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of SSPN Postgame, and it was after a sweet, sweet win, Ethan. I know things got a little testy at the end there, but honestly, I was just waiting for it to come, like for it to just get like to a point where you got a little bit nervous, just because they're so young. Like it really didn't surprise me when they were up 30. Like the broadcasters were kind of mentioning it. I had confidence they pulled it out, which they ended up doing. But yeah, Ethan, just tell me your thoughts on the Spurs' big win tonight.
Until the last 7 minutes, that was a perfect game, in my opinion. That last 7 minutes, like you said, that was rough. Minnesota
Hmm.
finally decided to go on a run. And I don't know why they waited so long to start pressuring our guys, because that was obviously the recipe for success for Indiana. But evidently they just didn't think of it. They didn't watch the game film. But whatever. That's first 3 quarters, 3.5 quarters
Hmm.
was fantastic. It was fluid basketball. It was pace. It was great defense. Everybody, top to bottom, playing the passing lanes, swarming rebounds. You couldn't have asked for a better night, Jude. And everybody was shooting well as well. You don't get that very often. Except
Yeah,
from the free throw line, sorry. Except from the free throw
no,
line.
you're good. You're good. No, we kind of talked about it yesterday in the SSPN live. Y'all should go check that out. We recapped the doubleheader where the Spurs went 2-0 against the Sixers and the Pacers. Um, but one of the things we were talking about was kind of the switchability of
Mm-hmm.
defense. And it- I could sit here and explain all the things that we did well, but there's one way to put it, and it's just that now we have a competent NBA, like modern NBA lineup. That's just, I really feel like that's the bottom line. And that really starts with Jeremy Sohan tonight. I feel like obviously you want to give Devin and Keldon their roses and everybody else who's doing good things as well. Jay Rich had a poster tonight on a putback. I mean, there were a lot of good stuff that we saw tonight, but I feel like it all stems from the fact that it's like we have optimal builds and talent at each position.
100%. Jeremy Sohan, when he was on the floor, it was so evident that his defense was so great on Carl Anthony Towns, and who was the other guy? He also played defense on Jaden McDaniels or Jalen McDaniel. I
Hmm.
don't know which one it is, but he was just playing phenomenal. I know Cat had 27 points, but it was 9 for 17, and Sohan was just a pest on everybody. Great switching, great communication across the board. Jakob Pertl as well. I mean, I really don't have a negative, Jude, defensively. We played phenomenal.
Yeah, I wish, like the only negative that I feel like I can take away from this game is that it's still just game four. And, kind of like
True.
we talked in that live yesterday, we're going to wait until teams get game plans on us. I'm sure Minnesota came into this one thinking it was going to be an easy win. It'll be interesting to see how they respond on Wednesday. But still, you don't want to just because of that, you still don't want to take away from all of the aggressiveness and all of the good things that we saw from our guys tonight. Just looking at the box score a little bit here, and I loved it kind of with Devin and Keldon because you may look at their field goals and be like, oh, that wasn't the greatest percentage or the most efficient night. But in the context of this game, they needed to keep attacking. And I thought both of them, even though Keldon specifically didn't have his best shooting night, there were so many of his shots that, like, especially threes, he went 1 for 6 from three, that just like rimmed in and out, just like it was like there was almost a little too much weight room on his shots. It wasn't that it was in the bad spot or that the rotation was bad. It was just,
Hmm.
Keldon's got a big body. No.
That's right.
Anyways, but I think you get what I'm saying. Like it wasn't like his form was bad or anything like that. Sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. To take a line from before we were on here, you were
Mm,
talking about a line from the Hangover, and that's a line from Bruce Almighty. So there's another
mm.
movie reference.
Great
Um,
quotes. Great quotes.
but even though 8 for 22 and 8 for 20, like if you watch that game, their aggressiveness opened up so much more offensively. Primo, I loved how he had no hesitation pulling up from three. You could tell that they just didn't even, like so many of these guys, they were just like, these guys aren't going to do anything, but they have skills. And the Spurs were really able to take advantage tonight. But I
Hmm.
think the biggest standout, once again, is Jeremy Sohan for sure tonight.
Dude, he was catching lobs. He caught 3 lobs in this game.
It was so fun.
Incredible. I didn't know he could. I knew he was athletic, but I didn't know he could
Hmm.
jump that high. Like two of those lobs, I was like, oh, that's a horrible pass. Like
Uh
that's
huh.
that's way too high. And he went up and he got it. Lob City 2.0 with Jeremy Sohan, Trey Jones. It's happening, Jude. It's official. It's a thing. But
I'm with you.
well, I was gonna say Minnesota clearly just did not read the scouting report at all. Because I remember one instance in particular, they literally double teamed Jeremy Sohan in a corner three and gave up a wide open Devin Vassell three in the on the wing.
Hmm.
It was like you don't do that. You let Sohan shoot it. Like he's not a great 3-point shooter right now, and you stay with Devin. You don't double off of Devin from the 3-point line. They clearly did not know our personnel and how we like to attack. But when we keep our foot on the pedal like we did for those first 3 quarters, I don't think I've seen the team play this fast and this aggressively before, especially the Spurs, because we're usually the,
Mhm.
the half court killers. Like we slowly and methodically like take you apart. And I know the past couple of years we've really been like emphasizing pace, pace,
Mhm.
pace. But with guys like DeMar and DeJounte, like yeah, pace, but at the same time we're gonna slow it down and let them go to work. It doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like there's not really. I know Devin and Keldon are the go-to scorers, obviously, but they're not ISOing as much as DJ and DeMar were. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's much more back to
Right.
Spurs basketball, fluid motion, everybody touching the rock, giving up an open shot for an even more open shot. And again, I know we talked about Sohan defensively, but he's kind of like he and Jakob are those two guys offensively too, and Trey Jones. Like the way they're able to kind of like hockey assists, skip passes, they understand
Yes.
where everybody is. Like that has
One of
been
the late
so.
Vassell threes was a
Mhm.
hockey assist from old boy Sohan.
They just understand how to play basketball and they understand
Mhm.
each other. And they've I know this is only 4 games in, and I'm really hyped right now, Jude. Like my heart's
Yeah.
still beating so hard, but like it it feels like they have caught on to each other and this system a lot quicker than everybody else was expecting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think tonight, you still want to keep the asterisk that it's the fourth game in the season, but
Yes,
this,
yes,
like watching this game tonight, made me be like, okay, this is why Devin was saying we hooping this year on
yeah.
the Instagram live. Like this is the type of stuff that they're capable of. I really think that this is going to get slowed down, like we talked about yesterday in the SSPN live. Just eventually teams are going to get a game plan. They're going to get a full scouting report on this brand new team, and just like we've seen in years past, and multiple different examples. Eventually, there will be some struggles that they'll hit. And that goes to our man comment. I don't even know how to say his name, but I'm going to read it. It's a young squad, so it's expected that at some point of the season they will hit a wall. And I think that's a
100%.
key point. But still, I think that this is a testament to just the talent on this team, and kind of what we talked about yesterday. Also, just Keldon and Devin, like consistently in these roles, they're going to be scoring close to 20 points, even when they have bad games. Like tonight, I still thought both of them played good games, but if
Mhm.
you want to look at them shooting, they didn't have great games, and Devin had 23 and Keldon had 20, or excuse me, 18, close to 20, right?
Yeah.
So when those dudes are doing that, like night in and night out, which I think they have the ability to do, you can't sleep on the Spurs. Like, and when I say that, that is not me saying that the Spurs are going to make any noise or anything in contention this year. That's just me saying that the Spurs aren't going to be a layup for every team every night if they don't come to play, like Minnesota didn't, for the majority of the first half. And that's why probably Minnesota will win on Wednesday. But even if they don't, even if the Spurs pull it out, it will very likely be a much more competitive game.
I do think that Minnesota will come out and stomp us on Wednesday. I'm just going to come out and say it. Like I think they're going to
Yeah,
really come full
yeah,
throttle,
yeah,
and we're not going to have a chance. I mean, it
mhm,
might be like we'll make a run in the third quarter or something and get it close
right,
again, but they're going to win the game. And I think it all comes down to we're still young, and in that
mhm,
fourth quarter, it's clear that we are young and we don't have that
right,
superstar yet. And so they were able to make from a 32-point game, they whittled it down all the way to what a 9-point game at the end.
mhm, mhm,
That's you can't let that happen. You can't
right,
let 32 become 9 in one quarter. Like
mhm.
that's just our age, it's our inexperience, and that's what's going to come back to bite us in the butt, and why we will eventually come down back to earth.
Right, right, exactly. So we got a lot of comments here that I want to get to. Just trying to scroll back up here. So the first one is from our man Go Spurs Go. I thought we were tanking, right? That's kind of how we're all feeling after this one. So 3-1. That's another comment in there. We got our girl Laura Latin in here saying "Go Spurs Go." What's up? Thank you for being in here, Laura. Um, let's see what else we got here. I missed this one earlier. So another one from our man Linmer. I'm going to go with that. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. We have the best coaching staff. They know that we have 17 players on the roster, and primarily you need to focus their development environment. Yes, I would agree. Definitely, this
Mhm.
season is on development. Faux show. All
When you
right.
got Brett Brown basically just being a development coach,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
And it's funny that you mentioned him. I'm going to get to our man Demon Guard's comment here in a second. But on the broadcast, on the Minnesota broadcast specifically, that's what I was watching tonight. They were talking about how they talked with Sean Elliott before the
Mhm.
game. And this is very interesting. I don't want to dig too much into this because this is just a random offhand comment that, this announcer said. But he said that Brett Brown specifically has reinvigorated Pop and that
Mm.
and Pop is fully invested in this young team. This is what Sean Elliott told the Minnesota broadcaster, and this is what he said on air. And he said that he might be around the league for a little bit longer, is basically what he was saying.
Wow.
So, I mean, if
Mm.
they're catching on like this and Pop really believes in them like that, once again, this is not me saying the Spurs are even going to make the playoffs this year. But I'm just saying that Pop might see something in this group like, wow, they have a little bit more than I even thought. And this may keep me around for, another 5 years or so.
You know what?
It sounds crazy, and I know that you can call us, hypocrites, whatever, because you can go back to the beginning of the year on our prediction video where literally both me and Ethan
Yeah.
open up saying it's going to be Pop's last season. But I also wasn't expecting to hear that, watching the
Mhm.
Timberwolves broadcast tonight. So crazy stuff there. And go Spurs go, hearing all the boos from the
Oh.
T-Wolves fans making it worth it.
Oh,
LOL,
it
but we need
does
to
make it
tank.
worth it.
It does
The
make it worth it though, for
the
sure.
Philly fans too. I want to hear the opposing team's boos, like
They
because
were
they're losing
so
to the
mad.
Spurs. That's
I know.
so fun.
They're like when Primo hit the 2 in their face and they were booing them, it's
Oh,
like they're not even booing you, they're booing their own team, and it's because they don't know who they are. It's like
it's
the TikTok we were
so
talking about.
funny. Yes, I love it. And what made it even more sweet, I don't have anything against Rudy Gobert. I kind of
Uh-huh.
like Rudy Gobert, but Carl Anthony Towns is the biggest crier in the NBA. I think
Somebody
if
else said
they
that in the comments.
statistically they should
Oh, yeah.
track
Here we go.
like which players complain the most, I feel like he's got to be number one.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, he's just always mad. And like for someone that's 6'11", 240, like you're getting beat up by Zach Collins and Jeremy Sohan. Like there's no way that you're getting abused. Like you should be inflicting the pain, not the other way around. I have no sympathy for Carl Anthony Towns. He just gets on my nerves, and I'm so happy that we're able
Finally
to.
gave him revenge, man, after
Oh
the
yes.
60 he gave us where he's cheesing
Oh,
Keldon playing anyways. And now, Roby did a good job against him,
he did.
Sohan did a good job against him, but I also wanna talk about what our man Tanner says. Russell ripping deep threes, no hesitation is #good. He was doing that in the mid-range too. The way he's coming off the dribble this year, the confidence he has, it looks different. His ball handling specifically looks different, and
He's
he's
yoked.
playing with a ton of confidence. And like I said, it once again goes back to the thing where it's like basically in hindsight, it really looks like the Spurs said, let's go with Keldon and Devin instead of Derek
Mhm.
and DeJounte.
Look back at our 2 years ago and our last year videos about Devin Vassell. We both thought that his body language looked a little too timid, and we kept telling him, you need to get aggressive. These past 4 games, he has been nothing but aggressive,
Right.
confident, and talking trash. I don't know if you saw at
Mhm.
the free throw line, he was like
I
talking to
believe.
Sohan and Gorgie, and he was like he's like looked like pointing at Cat, and he was like he can't guard us, and like he dropped the F word like a couple times,
I
and the
love
bench
it.
is like laughing and clapping. Like that's the kind of energy I need out of this team. Like we need that. We're feeding off of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So our man King J says, so the Victor train is over. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But I just think that, the Spurs might be a little bit better than we thought also. But
Yeah.
all of this, once again, really, we got to wait until midseason when the teams get game plans because I could see us doing this, early in the season on a couple teams. And then when they realize, okay, we can't just feel like we're going to roll over these guys, then it'll, you'll start to see a little bit more struggles. So that kind of goes in with the lottery odds too. I mean, because if you're just in that top 5 area or the bottom 5 area, you kind of have
Hmm.
the same odds as everybody else in the bottom 5. So I wouldn't say that necessarily. But what I will say is like I kind of opened it up. I think that granted it's all 4 games in, but I think that we have a little bit more talent than we thought.
We definitely. I don't know if we
Yeah.
have like everyone's more developed than we thought and
Right.
more
Right.
together.
Right.
Like the preseason was. I guess just we were out there just playing ball. Like there was no scheme because this is a completely different team as far as fluidity, ball movement, and just overall chemistry. Like it just looks like they've been playing for an entire year already.
Yeah. Yeah. And, one of the main reasons why we were like, very hesitant on this team is because they didn't have much experience in the league.
Yeah.
Like, yes, they had skills that looked good. And yeah, even though they'd been in the league, but they had never had those roles. So you just never know how that's going to work out. But
Mm.
they look really comfortable and they're playing together.
What Suacho Bros just said,
Let's put it
Zach.
up.
He does look a lot more comfortable these past couple games. He looks a little stronger. I know he's still struggling on boards, but he's aggressive with it, and he's trying to tap balls out. Pause, and he's really fighting for extra possessions, and a lot better of a passer than I gave him credit for. This dude is dropping some absolute
Yes,
dimes,
I
Jude.
noticed that too. Out of the post. Yeah.
Yeah,
And he
who
did
knew?
box out and out rebound Rudy Gobert tonight. So, and his
Yeah,
face up game is getting more consistent, not just from three, but also from the mid range as well.
no
Um,
hesitation. Nobody
I'm eating my
hesitated.
words. Look, right now, I'm eating my words. Him
Me
saying
too.
that he, we were kind of clowning him for saying he was going to look different this year, and he kind of has. Also, shout out to Swatcho. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I see the Jonathan Simmons profile pic, and I love it. Shout out
That's
to the
awesome.
Spurs Hall of Famer Jonathan Simmons.
I miss that guy, Jay
He's
Sims.
definitely in the SSPN Hall of Fame, even if he's not in the Spurs Hall of Fame.
Side note. Oh, I mean, two side notes, both of which we don't have to spend a lot of time on.
Okay.
Romeo Langford had less than a minute and still somehow got a -2. I think that's hilarious.
I'm crying.
Like
I don't
I don't
even see
know
that.
how. Whatever. We'll get off of that. Romeo,
Right.
that's no shade. That doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
And then Doug McDermott went 0 for 3, but I still felt like he had a pretty decent impact when he was in the game as far
Mhm.
as spacing the floor, moving the ball, setting good screens, and just being like a weapon.
Mhm.
It opened up the lane for us. So let's not jump on Doug yet. He was bound to have one of these games, but everyone else just kind of stepped it up across the board.
Yeah. I wish like I could say more about this game, Ethan, but I really don't have like too much to say because it was just, it was such a dominant performance and then they're a young team, so they
Mhm.
let them back and they've got a lot of offensive firepower and that's kind of what happened at the end there, but I kind of wanted to talk about something else. So, our man Peter Antosius, if I'm
Mm.
pronouncing this right, or Antonius. There you go, Antonius, my bad. Are we selling Jakob, Doug, and J Rich? So the reason I brought this up is because I believe early this morning, yeah, I
Yeah.
sent it to you.
Mhm.
Shams dropped an article with The Athletic talking about how specifically the Lakers have interest in Josh Richardson, and the Spurs and Lakers have apparently had preliminary talks. Now, I just want to like preface this, even though it's Shams and he's reliable, sometimes these things can happen. We can get these articles and then nothing comes to fruition ever. Like
Yeah.
they had preliminary talks and then maybe the Spurs are like, we really like how we're doing right now and we like how Jay Rich fits in. So we're just going to keep rolling with this. I could totally see Brian Wright in the front office doing that. But I think that if you do tend to, maybe be a little bit closer to 500 than you'd like, there's no reason when you've got Malachi and Blake Wesley in the basically in the lab right now, starting G League training camp in Austin, you might as well. And it's like you said, you're not going to contend anyway. You might as well at the deadline, deal some of those guys. I think that the Spurs do really want to keep Jakob. I would say that Doug and J Rich are a little bit more likely to get traded um, than Jakob. But the thing that sucks is I like all three of those guys. Like
Me too,
I
dude.
I understand why it's the best decision if you can trade J Rich to the Lakers for picks, but or Doug, or both, but or whoever, you're getting if you get value out of them, why not? But it just sucks because I really like their personalities and I really like their fit and I like how they're not like they're actually it seems like they want to play for the Spurs, which doesn't happen often.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But I will say the Lakers fans are ridiculous. I looked at their Twitter earlier today, and they were like, "That's fair. We'll give you Russ and one first for Doug, J. Rich, and Jakob." And I was like,
Hmm.
"It's like that's not enough. Not for all three of those guys. Like I need two firsts, and you're getting J. Rich and Doug. Like not getting all three. That's
Hmm.
ridiculous. We can probably get two firsts for just Jakob Pertl alone, but you're
Yeah.
gonna make us play Russell Westbrook." Like, no, no, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And I think and that's the problem with the the Lakers right now, because that was the other thing in the article that they were talking, or that Shams was talking about, was just that, like, if teams are going to take on Russ, they want both of their unprotected first round picks. And that's why the Miles Turner Buddy Hield trade fell apart. So that's kind of where the Lakers are being stubborn on that. But back to the Spurs, kind of just looking at the outlook for the rest of the week. I know you're going to have the Bulls game on Friday. Obviously, we'll have the Timberwolves rematch on Wednesday, which we both think, unfortunately, won't go as well as it did tonight.
Grudge
But
match.
but do you think that, like, I guess moving forward, do you think that, and I kind of said earlier, I think they can, what's your outlook on the Spurs being able to do this type of performance moving forward to maybe some other teams that haven't played against them before? Do you think that's realistic? Like, what do you think they can continue in regards to tonight?
I think this is going to be a more consistent thing that we see,
Yeah.
especially in the first three quarters. The fourth quarter is really where I think things are going to start to change, especially in the second and third times we start seeing these opponents and they start getting a game plan set for us. We're not going to pull out as many victories like this, but I do think we will be a lot more competitive and a lot more difficult to kind of stamp out. That being said, things will settle back down and we will probably
Yeah.
still be at the bottom of the West.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you for sure. Well, I don't want to cut off this SSPN live, Ethan, but we are supposed to be getting some weather where I'm living right now. And so I
Oh,
can kind of hear it a little bit. And I just don't want the stream to like cut off. And so I
yeah, I
know
feel you.
we've done a good 20 minutes here, but I still kind of want to wrap up with like some closing thoughts from this game. I know we kind of just talked about it a little bit moving forward, but let's see in the comments here. What are some of the other storyline? Oh, here's one that I wanted to get to. I think this is a good way to end it. Does this mean DeJounte was holding us back all these years? I saw another comment there, and I don't think DeJounte was holding them back, but it kind of goes more back to what I said about Keldon and Devin. You know, both having higher ceilings than DeJounte and Derek in kind of their roles. I feel like that would probably be the answer to that. Not necessarily who's holding him back, but
Mhm.
the team's overall potential is higher with these two guys running the show.
100%. And I don't think DeJounte was holding us back. I think the rest of the team was not ready to support him. And he was a very, very much of a ISO scorer, you know.
Hmm.
And so that combination was just not a winning one. And so now he's gone. We don't really have that guy that's going to be a ball dominant, player. I mean,
Hmm.
Devin is like the most ball dominant, but I wouldn't say that he's on the same level of dominance as DeJounte was. So now
Hmm.
everyone else is elevated and we can move the ball without having to worry about, stopping and watching one guy go one on one. So it's just two different teams. I don't think
Yeah.
DJ was at fault. It's just where we were at the time.
I think it also goes back to what our man Felix Ayala just said. They're playing the beautiful game. It's what
Yeah,
you said at the beginning. They're playing that pop style. He's really getting to mold these guys. And I think because they're all drafted by the Spurs, with some other exceptions, I think it makes it easier for Pop to kind of instill that in these dudes.
1000%.
Alrighty. Well, we're gonna get off here before we or accidentally get cut off. But 2 days in a row. So y'all, if y'all need some more Spurs content, go check out our live yesterday as well. We talked about some big overarching topics. But this was a huge win, and we'll be back with another post game on Wednesday with no weather interrupting. We'll be able to go a little bit longer. I appreciate y'all. Ethan appreciates y'all. We both appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in to SSPN. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did enjoy the content today. And then also don't forget to follow us on Twitter if you want to watch the show there and stay up to date when every new episode is coming out. We post it on there at SSPN on YT, at Jude McLaren, and at Ethan_Quintero. We appreciate y'all, and we'll catch you.